Hello everyone, Karen Winter here from beatingchronicfatigue.com once again, coming to you live from the forest. In case you're wondering about the background surroundings, I have a very sustainable one-room cottage which I actually lived in for 8 years before I moved into town about 18 months ago. There is an old kerosene fridge that you can see to one side, something like your grandmother had. There is a slow combustion wood stove at the back, which I've actually lit today because, would you believe, it's 13 degrees and we've just had 3 days of 39 to 40 kombucha and yogurt this morning. Anyway, I'd like to talk about negative self-talk. Do you ever wonder where your negative self-talk actually comes from? I've mentioned earlier about my upbringing in my childhood and my rather abusive father who used to rant and rave and swear and carry on all the time. One of the things I came to realise was he was actually verbalising his negative self-talk. So every time Dad was in the house, his negative self-talk in his head was coming out of his mouth. So growing up with a parent with negative self-talk that you're listening to all the time is really not an easy thing to grow up with. The other interesting thing is one of Dad's half-brothers, they had the same mother but a different father, I found out through my cousin after he passed away, also did the same thing. So isn't that interesting? Maybe it's some hereditary pattern that's been passed down through my grandmother's side of the family, because they have different fathers, but they had the same mother. But my grandmother used to rant and rave and carry on quite a bit as well. She wasn't the most positive person in the world. But then I look back to my father's upbringing. Now, Dad and his brother lost their father to lead poisoning. Their father died when he was about 56 years of age, and my father was 8 years old and his brother was 6 years old. Now, back in those days in New Zealand, they didn't have anything like the family pension or any sort of family benefit system. So my grandmother had to raise 2 young boys on her own. She was working as cooks on farms and things like that, and had to take the boys in, and often had to move on because the farmer obviously wanted a bit more than what she was willing to provide. So anything like that would happen, she would pack the family up and move on. My father used to tell stories of he and his brother going to school and have shoes to wear on their feet. Now, they grew up in the South Island of New Zealand in Dunedin and I think even around the Invercargill area, right down south. Now, that's pretty cold in the winter. There's ice on the ground and frost most days. So he used to tell us stories about walking to school in frost in bare feet. So as you can see, my father had a pretty traumatic childhood. He actually went to 24 different schools. Now, I can understand why my father in some ways traumatized my whole family. He didn't know what it was like to have a family life and grow up in a loving, caring household when he didn't have his father around. And his mother had to move all the time to find work to feed them and clothe them and send them off to school. So I guess all that trauma from his childhood resulted in his negative self-thought and negative self-talk and all his ranting and raving and carrying on. So it's pretty hard to grow up with that and not know anything different. And when I think about it, my mother was pretty negative and pessimistic a lot of the time as well. You'd say something to her and she always look at the negative time or screw her nose up. And it's like, well, it's pretty hard to be a positive person in the world when you grow up with such negative parents. But a lot of my friends over the years have always said to me, how come you're so positive? How can you be so positive? And when I first learnt kinesiology 25 years ago, the first thing I did with kinesiology was I loved the affirmations. So I'd get my kinesiology books out. I used to use self-testing with kinesiology, which I will show you at some stage. And I could do a lot of the kinesiology balances and corrections on myself. So I got my affirmation books out and I used to just do lots of affirmations on myself. I did affirmations about loving myself. I was in a lot of financial crisis at that stage and debt. My credit cards are up to the max. I did affirmations on myself to do with money and prosperity and abundance, and I completely changed my financial world around. I completely changed my mindset and I completely changed my life. Affirmations are really powerful. If you can turn those negative self-talk negative thoughts around and create them into positive ones, and catch yourself out every time you think something negative and just say something positive like, every day in every way my life is getting better and better, or I 100% love myself now and always. It's better than that negative self-talk, beating yourself up, thinking all those negative thoughts all the time, which don't really get you anywhere, don't help you to succeed in life, and often set up a lot of our sabotage programs that stop us from receiving for our hopes and dreams and getting what we want out of life. But anyway, I just thought it was an interesting perspective, thinking about my father and his upbringing and how his stepbrother rented and raved and carried on as well. But, you know, it's pretty hard growing up with all that and then living a life with a positive mindset. So I can see that the benefits from my use of kinesiology and working with my clients, even right from the start, the first affirmation I used to do on all my clients when they came to see me was the one, I 100% love myself now and always. And just that affirmation made profound changes in people's lives. So with kinesiology, we clear the stress or the emotions beneath the affirmation and set the affirmation into the belief system. So you absolutely believe it. There's no negative charge on it, and you can go out there and be way more positive. Anyway, I just thought that was an perspective on affirmations and negative thought, how you can change negative thoughts into positive thoughts and transform your world and transform your life. Anyway, I'd love you to come and join my closed Facebook group. It's called You Happy and Healthy Ever After. The link is above or below this video. Have a wonderful weekend, relax, enjoy, take some time out. I have friends coming over to visit this afternoon, so we may go into town for coffee, or if it warms up a bit, we may even go and walk my labyrinth, which I have down on the property a bit further. Anyway, have a truly beautiful day and stay tuned for my next video. Ciao.